You are believer. The foothills were always the last frontiers, perilously close to the high mountains or the wastelands far below. Those who didn't fit in with the old world retreated here, safe in remoteness to preach radical ideas and live how they wished. Life on the edge was harsh, but these marginal communities thrived outside the grip of imperial control. You learned to fly your settlement's single battered plane, to trade for essential supplies and drive off beasts wandering too close to home. Believers are self-serious and determined fanatics who devote themselves entirely to some cause or another. To them, life and death are of little concern, their movement or faith must always come first. There's also another way of playing as believer. Self-motivated characters with strong drive who are always working with a purpose might work well as a believer too. Oh God, we are making shonen protagonist. In fact, the believers think their belief is so correct, they can't trust anyone else at the start. The theme of the believers is about the mindset that thrives on radicalism, not ideas like religions or politics that induce radicalism. It is about the way that the sense of purpose found in radicalism of any kind can create a sort of dependence, where the nature and utility of the beliefs matter less than expressing them loudly, insistently, and often performatively. The specific imagery of the believer is drawn from a mix of fundamentalist Protestantism and revolutionary communists of the early 20th century, who often stockpiled weapons and established training camps for the coming uprising, but it can be repurposed for any radical belief. One thing to note about is one of the potential starting baggage for believer, an armband signifying a political cause. Armbands like these used to be common in many nations, worn by a variety of political parties across the political spectrum. Well, until the Nazi Party used them everywhere and they fell out of use because of it, so that's another thing on the list of things ruined by Nazi. When making a believer, you also get to form an ideology they follow in. Obviously, don't make an ideology that makes everyone at the table thinking that bringing you in is a mistake. The best way to play a believer is to have one with the right idea, but they are so fucking self-righteous and loud that you just want them to shut the fuck up. Anyway, let's get going with the central moves. The believer's core move is idealist, where they get two convictions below to form an ideology, or make your own ones. Whenever you suffer hardship or break trust with someone for a conviction, mark one sacrifice. You must make two sacrifices each routine before you are allowed to indulge in vice or have quality time. During introspection, you may invest 1 XP to put 1 point into a 10-point reflection track. At 5 mark, your sacrifice target is 1, at 10 mark, you no longer need to make any sacrifice, but when you do, you lose 1 stress. What counts as sacrifice is negotiable, but risking or forfeiting money, injury, or stress counts. The believer's main problem isn't that they have strong ideals, it's that they think they must suffer for them. Cults and radical ideological groups often set impossible standards, then exploit guilt from not measuring up. Needless to say, living your life like this is no fun, but the believer can eventually learn to touch grass and keep a healthier relationship with their ideals. It's also why believers are going to get burnt out very easily, and vent a lot. However, believers have an entirely different vent mechanic. They instead suffer loss of faith and get to do 3 things. 1. They vent by going against their conviction, losing 1 reflection track and 1 stress, which means you get nothing because you need to spend 1 XP to add 1 to the reflection track anyway. 2. They change one of their conviction completely, clearing all stress and reflection track, having half the XP you have spent in it being refunded. This obviously gives you like all the experience points you ever want, but you also lose all progress and need to start over again. Again, the actual belief doesn't matter much to the believer. What matters to them is to be a radical, even if they are putting belief into an entirely wrong thing, especially if they are putting it all into the wrong thing. Or 3, if you have full reflection track, your sacrifice clears 3 stress at burnt out. A believer essentially achieved nirvana when they have touched all the grass they need, so they are just really chill now. The believer's intimacy move is change for you. When you let others in, allow them to collectively give you a 3rd conviction, or they may instead choose to affirm a current belief, let you mark 3 on the reflection track. At the end of the routine, remove 1 of your convictions so you only have 2. If you use this move in the air, if your partners give you a new conviction, they may choose to gain idealist, with the belief they gave you as their conviction. Non-believers also always count as having a full reflection track. If they choose to mark reflection instead, mark 5. Since a believer's actual belief doesn't actually matter, people close to them can sway them to new ideas, or help them moderate. It is often not their beliefs that cause tension, but the way they use them as a cudgel against themselves and others. And now that the heavy stuff is somewhat over, I think, Let's get on with the personal moves. Like other backgrounds, believers start with 3 of the following moves. First, evangelical. Wow, we are getting into the deep end already. When you explain your theories to a comrade, they hold one. When you judge one of their actions, uphold your convictions, you gain trust in them, and they take advantage forward. So, remember how believer can't trust anyone at all at the start. This move lets them trust other players very quickly, because they are now totally the good guy in their eyes, and also give them advantage when doing what the believer thinks is the right answer. However, just because the believers trust their allies, that doesn't mean they would do the same back, because they are probably thinking,
"Stop it. Get some help."
Theory and praxis. When you disagree with an NPC, explain what must be true given your convictions. If they admit you're right, erase a reflection and take advantage forward. If they stand by their story, gain a reflection. If reflection is already at 10, gain 1 XP instead. Basically, you are kinda putting a wager against the GM with the ego and faith of the believer at stake, but no matter what, you will always get something good, and this can be paired with press the issue too, since you are most likely using it to argue about a subject anyway. Conversion. During move exchange, you may additionally offer the other player idealist with a conviction of your choice. Non-believers always count as having a full reflection track. Basically, this lets other players actually be able to use some of the believers' moves that are dependent on the reflection track. All non-believers always count as having a full reflection track because they are quite chill compared to the believers. Undying faith. When you fly without a parachute, take +1 ongoing to your worst stat. Again, playing right into the self-sacrificing theme of the believer, just hope you don't actually get shot down. Fanatic. When you miss a move and then try the exact same thing again, take +1 forward. Very good with dogfighting, as you could just keep focusing on the attack, but it also works for everything else as long as you keep trying them. Songbird. For once per routine, when you sing a hymn or marching song, describe your song, take +1 ongoing. When a singer misses a roll, the song ends, and the next singer to roll takes disadvantage forward. When everyone with this move sings together, increase the bonus by +1 for each singer. The once per routine restriction is also for the whole group. Don't worry about the extremely loud engine noise. The characters don't need to be able to hear each other. The important part is the feeling that they are in sync, since feelings are all that matter to believers anyway. Force of will. When a foe wounds you, hold 1, spend for a 20+ on a roll to take revenge. Of course, a believer is going to hold massive grudge to whoever that wronged them. This also stacks every time somebody wrongs you, even if the injury is 0, so you can collect a few against a rival and just chain up the 20s to screw them over. And finally, revolutionary. When you drive a crowd to a revolutionary fervor, roll plus keen. On 11 to 15, pick 1, on 16+, pick 2, on 20+, you get it all. So yeah, you literally just starts a revolution, but there's a problem. Look at the playbook. One of the believer stat block has 0 keen, one has -2 keen. If a believer with these stats start a revolution, they probably gonna fuck it up massively. But hey, guess what move is above this one? Other than the personal moves, you also get a plane, planes which are, to say the very least, fucking insane and unsafe to fly even by early flight engineering standard, except for one. This includes unused Thelerswehander, a plane with a sword designed to ram and cut into incoming aircraft, and used Mitcher IGJ-83 just like, a well-armed mistake of a plane, and used Arntwerke D.13, a slow light bomber with the stability of a Jenga tower, and a new Rathen A9C, an actually normal plane, with rockets. You can also buy any used plane for up to 15 Thaler at the start. And there you have it, believer, those that follow radical ideals and preaches it fervorously to others, when really, all they need to do is chill out. Anyway, that's all for now, and I will see you all next time. Hello there, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell button. If you really want to support my channel, you could visit my Patreon page, or buy me some coffee, links in the description. Anyway, have a nice day.